Two generations of Team USA Olympic gold medalists join us, the added pressures of designing Paris's only new Olympic venue, and how does one go about enticing the French to drink anyone else's fizz? I'm Andrew Muller. The Monocle Daily starts now. Hello and welcome to the Monocle Daily live from Paris. I'm Andrew Muller. Week 2, day 4 of our weekday residency here on the 16th floor of the Sceaux Hotel in the centre of the French capital, taken over for these Olympic weeks by Maison Allianz, the worldwide insurance partner of the Olympic and Paralympic Games. My guests today are Regan Smith, Rowdy Gaines, Murad Bouyad, Cecilia Grosser, Laura Meriot and Helen Gunn, who between them have 5 gold medals, 1 Aquatics Centre, 1 dance production and a bottle of sparkling wine. That's all coming up on the Daily, live from Maison Allianz at the Sceaux Hotel. Welcome to the Monocle Daily live from Paris. I'm Andrew Muller and I am joined first of all today by 2 multiple US Olympic swimming medalists, Rowdy Gaines, who won 3 gold medals in the pool at Los Angeles in 1984, and Regan Smith, who, and I think I've got these numbers right, won 2 silver medals and a bronze medal at the Tokyo Games and has added 3 silver medals and 2 gold medals to that pile here in Paris. Regan, did that sound about right?
That's perfect. You got it all.
First of all, congratulations, and I mean that as ungrudgingly as any Australian can to an American swimmer. But that is quite an extraordinary heap. There are entire countries, and I've looked this up, which in 128 years of trying have not won that many medals in total. Is that a thing you can actually get your head around? I know this is what you do for a living, but has it really hit you yet?
I'd say truthfully no, because I think just what you said, when it is your life and you're the one who's living it and experiencing it, I think you can get really lost in just how big of an accomplishment it is, but I think that also helps you keep a really good head on your shoulders. But I think it'll sink in a little bit more when I go home and I'm able to celebrate with my family and everyone. But thank you for saying that. That was really flattering.
Is the second Olympics easier than the first?
Yes, absolutely it is. And I
Really?
think, yeah, in my opinion it was. I think too because since Tokyo was my first Olympic experience and that was all under the wraps of COVID and everything was super bizarre and weird, this was just a much more freeing experience. And I also think with like 3 more years of life experience under my belt, for me, like 19 to 22, I'm a completely different person. And I've just been through a lot since then. And like I said, gained a lot of life experience. So I think I have a much better perspective this time around as well. So I think I was just able to enjoy it more and did not crack under the pressure as much.
Take it in, you know, like
yes.
trying to figure out, oh, that's so cool. That's the ready room. And before you're just like blocking everything out. But now I saw you in the ready room a couple times. You were laughing and you know, not that you're not concentrating, but it was pretty cool because we could see that on the broadcast. And, you know, you looked at a lot more ease with yourself and where your place was in history.
Oh, I'm glad you can see that. Yeah, and that's definitely true. I think for a long time I was just wishing all of my experiences away because I was so clouded by nerves and fear. I just wanted things to be over as fast as possible. And so then I never like allowed myself to soak in the experience and truly enjoy it. And I do really think I'm getting to a place in my life with swimming and my career there where I can actually really enjoy what I'm doing because it's so cool. It actually is so cool and so much fun. And this is something that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. As cliche as that sounds, it's true.
It is true.
Yeah, might as well be present for it instead of wishing it was all over and done with, right? So, yeah.
Rowdy, to bring you in, we've been talking to a lot of French people these last couple of weeks who have all more or less said the same thing about their Olympic Games, which is that nobody wanted Paris to even bid for it. Everybody was horrified when Paris won the Games. They've spent years anticipating that the whole thing will be a shambles, and now that it's happened, it's actually been really good fun and everyone's enjoyed it. Measured against previous Olympic Games you've been to, how have you seen Paris?
I thought it was just magical in every sense of the word. This is my 11th straight Summer Olympics. I started in 1984 and been to every one since. But I am not looking at it through an athlete's eyes. Their eyes are in a much different place than mine, because my hotel is literally 100 yards away from the pool. I've been able to Uber pretty much everywhere, no traffic, no problem. We went to the USA House the day of the opening ceremony. It was a 30-minute ride, and it was a 30-minute ride. No traffic, no stops. The Parisians, the French people, have been so kind, accommodating. They've been wonderful hosts. Every restaurant you walk in, as long as you say bonjour, or bonsoir, that's a critical piece. You can't just walk in and say, do you have this jacket? Or my wife can't just go in and say, do you have this type of dress? You have to say bonjour first. Remember that.
I didn't know that.
So it's really important to kind of, be welcoming to them as much as they are going to be welcoming to you. So for me, in my perspective as a broadcaster and as just a person enjoying the sights and sounds of Paris, it's been magical.
Do you still miss the competition, though? I mean, I know not after 40 years?
No.
Not at all?
No, not at all. those feelings left me a long time ago, dude. There's zero missing swimming, competing. I did for a while. Regan, when you end up retiring, there's going to be 1 or 2 and maybe even 3 Olympics. Like, I could have been out there. I could talk to Mrs. Franklin about that. She at trials. I could kind of. Yeah. But then it goes away. By the 3rd or 4th, it's like, no. And now I can't. I couldn't even get close to the women. So those feelings are long gone.
Regan, at what point do you start worrying about the next Olympic Games? 4 years away. It'll be sort of a home games. Well,
it will be a home.
Very much for any American, I guess, Los Angeles. But when do you start thinking, oh, God, that's coming up?
That's a good question. I think this cycle will feel so much longer than the last one did, since now we have a full 4-year cycle, whereas Tokyo to Paris, it was just 3. So it went by so quick. So I think this one will feel ultra long, I'm assuming. So I don't know. I don't want to put it on my horizon too far in advance, because I think that's a good recipe for burnout. But being here, I'm really jazzed up and excited for what the future holds in LA, so it's already been on my mind here. But then I think that once I go home and fall back into what my normal routine is again, I don't think I'll be thinking much about it until we're like a year and a half out or so.
Can I offer a piece of advice?
Please.
Can you swim for 9 days before the Olympics start and then swim the Olympics?
Oh my gosh.
You get better and better as the meet goes on. It's unbelievable.
Thank you.
Her very last swim. How many swims did you have in those games altogether? Do you remember how many with prelim, semis?
3 individuals, 3 times, so 9 individual races. The prelim mixed medley, and then the final of so
11 swims. Her 11th swim, she won her best time, broke the Olympic record in the 100 back, missed the world record by a 10th. I mean, her own world record, by the
way. Is there something there, though, Regan? Because I was wondering what else you take away from an experience like these games, and wondering in particular, it's something that always intrigues me about a silver medal of which you've won 3 at these games, which is obviously no small change, but do they rankle at all, especially given how tiny the margins often are? Do they keep you sort of waking in the night thinking, half a second and it would have been gold?
Less than that.
Yeah, less than that most of the time. I think, yes, it can be very easy to let your mind get to that place, but then I also think that's how you stay miserable and always feeling like a failure and like you haven't achieved enough or you haven't lived up to your own or others' expectations. So sometimes if I'm like really in my feels and I'm feeling negative, I'm like, geez, like I was this close every single time. Like, how frustrating is that for me? But if I put on my positive cap, which I've been able to do more and more recently and as I've gotten older, I put together some really, really incredible performances. And I didn't choke under pressure as I have many times in the past, and I've been pretty vocal about that. I was just able to go out there fearlessly and really perform to the best of my ability. and it just wasn't quite enough each time.
You didn't choke, by the way.
I used to, Rowdy. I used to choke. I would go out there and I wanted to be anywhere else. Like fight or flight, I wanted to fly out of there.
Internally, but when the clock showed up, you didn't.
Well, thank you.
You
I appreciate it.
Still amazing.
Thanks. It means a lot to me. But yeah, internally, that's how it felt. And this time, I think I fearlessly really tried to rise to the occasion each time. And I think it showed with my performances. But I'm just, gosh, when you're up against the best of the best ever, it's difficult. But you know what? I was right there every single time. And so what else can I do? You know?
And Rowdy, this does seem to have turned into a bit of a, symposium on lessons in philosophy from the Olympians. But you struggled for some while with, I guess, your Olympic record in that there was the games you couldn't go to, Moscow in 1980, and you went on to win 3 gold medals in a single games, and I can't even begin to guess at the tininess of the percentage of people who can claim they've done that. But did that still rankle at you, that truck full of golds you could have had at Moscow?
Sure it does, but not as much as for those that were part of that team that did not make an Olympic Games before or after. There were 363 athletes that made the Olympic team in 1980 that did not make it in 76 and that did not make it in 84. Those are the real heroes. I had my day in the sun. I was very blessed to have 1984. So yeah, it still upsets me in a sense that I thought the decision was wrong. For those of you that I'm sure there are not many out there that are old enough to remember, but that decision was made primarily for 2 reasons, not to give you a long history lesson, but one, to move the Olympics out of Moscow, which where they were, or the Russians being influenced to move out of Afghanistan, a country they invaded. Neither one of those happened. So for me, the hindsight's a beautiful thing, but it upsets me that nobody had the foresight to say, a boycott's not going to work. It's only going to ruin so many lives in a sense of an athletic life, obviously. But 84 was glorious for me because I got to swim at a home Olympics and it was fun. But 80 was tough, no doubt about it.
Rowdy Gaines and Regan Smith, thank you both for joining us. You are listening to the Monocle Daily live from Paris with me, Andrew Muller. Paris took an unusually low-key approach to hosting these Olympics, foregoing the usual massive outlay on new venues and infrastructure in favour of bringing the Games into what is, admittedly, an unusually impressive array of extant infrastructure. Fencing in the Grand Palais, skateboarding in the Place de la Concorde, and so forth. Only one major new venue was commissioned, the Aquatics Centre in Saint-Denis. Well, earlier I spoke to its designers, Cecilia Gross, architect partner at Venhoven CS Architects based in Amsterdam, and Laurie Merriod, architect partner at Atelier de Trois Quatre, a French architecture firm. I began by asking Cecilia whether designers of the venues get the same pre-games nerves that the athletes competing in the venues do.
Oh yeah, for sure. we always compare with Laurie. It was really a top sport competition for us as architects. We had to compete against very famous architects. And it happens just one in your life as French that you can design an Olympic swimming pool in your own country. So there was big pressure. And we believed that we had to deliver the maximum of ourselves. And that's a bit what the team did. So it felt like a huge performance with a lot of stress and always competing for it.
And Laura, were there any extra nerves attached to the fact that unusually at this Games, of course, there've been, I think this is the only major new venue built for these Games, so this would be the focus of everybody's attention. Does that make it even harder to work towards?
It was harder and, in a sense, more powerful for us. Like we had to do our best, and I think we did it. And we were very excited by the way people will react, and athletes and journalists. And for now, we are quite happy of what's going on there. And we went there last week, and we go there tonight to feel, the supporter, the act of them, and how we will have a lot of medal and Olympic records there. But yeah, it was hard, and we had bad reviews first from French journalists. A lot of people were asking themselves why we didn't have the swimming competition in the venue. as the swimming pool is too small. But the thing is, the choice of Paris 2024 was very clever for the legacy, to build a building that can be good for after the game and not too big. So now we are very happy that everybody see it and see how this building is exceptional and will be very good for France.
Cecilia, if you can remember back this far to the very beginning of the process when, and this is not something that many people ever have to deal with, somebody telling them, could you please go away and design an Olympic venue? Where do you even start? What's the first thing you think of when you first put the pencil on the paper?
Yeah, a lot of things. So of course we looked at what has been done before, and then we looked at actually the requirements that the Métropole du Grand Paris gave us, and all the team that we were, because you should not forget that in our team we had the architects, the engineers, the constructor, but we also had the operators. We will run the swimming pool for 20 years. So you also have to think, how do I make a sport facility? And the first question was which kind of sport program we have to add to the Olympics one, let's say, to make a sport facility for the neighborhood. So I think that was the first start. What do we need to add? So we add a swimming pool on a smaller size to learn swimming, because that's really something that Saint-Denis needs to have. A lot of kids doesn't know how to swim. And then we think, okay, we have so much incredible mix of culture. How do you bring people together? So we also have fitness, and we have bouldering, and we have soccer, 5 against 5, and paddle tennis. So we really try to see how we not maybe design an aquatics center, but how we design a sport facility that can show, let's say, the ambition of sustainability, but actually bring people together to have fun together around sport.
Because this is important, right, Laura, that it's not just for the Olympics. This is supposed to be something that the neighbourhood and I guess all of Paris will be able to use for years and years and years.
Yes. It's very important, and that was how we took the question of this aquatic center. It was first how to build a building for the metropole, for the people of Paris, and as Cecilia said, to bring people together and different sports. And then how it will be very good for Olympics. So we had the Olympic impulsion show us how to do the best. So we really worked hard to understand what we call in French juste mesure, which is how we do choice to the legacy and to do the best competition site. And it will be, for France, the first big competition site for swimming. So we will host the European competition in 2026. So it didn't exist for now in France. We had a small swimming pool, and so it's very good for us.
And Cecilia, does the history of Olympic venues inform your thinking when you're putting this together? Do you look back at things and think, okay, that was really nice, that worked, and also look at other things where you think, no, that was a disaster, we shouldn't do that?
Yeah, I think that the main lesson we learn is how we think for first legacy and then Olympics. So really,
you think of the future rather than the present first.
And what Laura was saying about the juste mesure, the right size. So really think about what the right dimension, what the right way of putting everything together, because we are architects. So our mission is especially to combine all these sports, to let them see each other. I mean, if you ask us to just design an Olympic swimming pool, then we will do a black box. Because no, but that's true. The media doesn't want natural light, and I think the huge quality of the space we created, it's of course a wood construction, but it's a lot of daylights. So you almost feel outside when you're inside, but you don't see that now on TV. You will have to come next summer to swim there. So that's a bit the magic of space that you will never design if you don't think about long term. And then, of course, we change it. It works perfectly now on camera for the Olympic Games, but it's delightful to swim there next summer.
I mean, On that thought, though, Laura, were there a lot of adjustments from what you might have wanted to do that were necessary to make it work as an Olympic venue, whether they're temporary or permanent?
Actually, the Olympic was in the center of what we wanted to do. The Olympic take a lot of space. So what we had to adjust was we had to take some decision to the long term, trying to have the good space we needed. So, for example, the Olympics asked for a lot of parking spaces. We decided that we will put a park instead of a parking. But for the Olympic, it's working, and for the big competition, it will work. But we were always thinking of the long term and the people living there goodness.
And Cecilia, just finally, thinking as an architect, what have you made of Paris's Olympic concept generally and how it has worked? Because you had to design a new venue for almost everything else. They used what they already had, the idea that they would bring the games into the city rather than building a whole bunch of new stuff. A week and a bit in, do you think it's been a success?
It's amazing successful. We were talking about it with Laura. It's a success we hoped. And we had so many, it's very intense, but you know everything about it, guys, because you're also in Paris. It's magic in the streets. Everybody's so keen. It's so nice atmosphere. And every sport that you're looking, you see exception of France. You see the history, you see monuments, you see fashion, you see design, you see art in every little form. And you see also sports and enjoyment. So yeah, I never thought it would be so magic, but it's really magic. Yeah. And a lot of medals. That helps a lot.
And a lot of happy Parisian, which is very good.
That was the architects Laura Mario and Cecilia Gross, the design team behind the Aquatics Centre at the Paris Olympics. You're listening to The Daily live from Paris on Monocle Radio. And no Olympic Games is just an Olympic Games. The competition is preceded and or accompanied by no end of associated productions, of which probably the most visible is the Cultural Olympiad. Well, I'm joined now by the choreographer Murad Bouyad. Murad, first of all, the Cultural Olympiad, for those who have missed it at previous games, how would you describe it generally?
I mean, it's basically covering the whole territory of France with amazing performances, actions with public audiences. We want to show as much as we can that we are part of this event, and then we want to include the bodies of all the actors, dancers and performers all over France.
Well, as I understand it, inclusion and inclusivity was a big theme of your production. How would you explain that?
I mean, I met with our Paralympic champion, Arnaud Assoumani, a few years ago, and we started to think, what can we do actually to just experience or show in a very concrete way living together, what it means for us. So what we did is that I created a method that I'm developing for now something around 5-6 years, and it allows non-dancers, dancers, people with handicap, broken bodies, made bodies, strong bodies, I don't know, every gender, everything, all ages, to be on the same stage and to share movement. And that's just the most simple way I could find to create living together, to show this inclusivity.
So once you have that idea, though, that basic concept, what's the next step to turning that, thinking as a choreographer, what's the next step to turning that into a production?
Yeah, I mean, so I cannot give all my tips with the method actually created, but yeah, I mean, I play with like the performers' individualities. I make them create stuff, and then we kind of share it in the space. So I design an ID card of movement for each performer, which fits his body and his intentions, and then I have a set of rules that allowed it to be shared in the space and to create a show that is seamlessly going together. And there is a lot of randomness into this method also. Like the rules of a game, and it's amazing to watch it always changing, always remade. So there is a very clear base, and there is like freedom to fly off. So that's how it works.
I mean, did you feel like part of your job was trying to, I guess, inculcate an Olympic mood in Paris? Because as literally every single French person we've spoken to these last couple of weeks has said, everybody in Paris was kind of cynical about these games until they actually started, and since they started, everybody kind of thinks, wow, this has been great.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, because I had met Arnaud Assoumani, so he's our champion, I obviously got this energy from him. I mean, I was also in doubts and like questioning, and information wasn't so clear and passing through. And slowly through him, I got this very clear feeling that it was going to be this amazing event, that strong, and then it just was natural and was just flowing with this energy. Yeah.
What kind of responses have you had from the people who've seen it?
I mean, the people who'd seen it and experienced it both were amazed, and I was too. Like, actually, I danced in the piece. Arnaud Assoumani danced in the piece. So yeah, we received it as like, wow, this is the first time I see an inclusive performance that doesn't show it, doesn't force it, it's not about inclusivity. It is inclusive by essence, because we just do it together. But there was no sense of like showing this inabilities or whatever. It was this very fine tune of being together in the most honest way. So I'm very glad that's just what I wanted.
Hey, was there any part of that and I know the Olympics makes a big determined thing of saying this is a completely apolitical space, this is nothing to do with politics, nothing that ever happens at the Olympics has anything to do with politics. Everybody knows that's not true, but they have to say it every time. Yeah. But were you animated at all by the current politics of France? Was there a point you were trying to make to, I guess, those sections of French thinking which maybe aren't so in favour of the idea of inclusivity?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, just with the situation in France, and now we can see it's all over the world. It's also in the UK now, and it's very scary for me and Arnaud. We're both métis. We are mixed race. We are so into the other world of like being together and loving that. So we thought à l'unisson, so that's the name of the show, which means unison, was really like a very clear and small but very strong way of doing it. And that's the goal, actually, to go in journey around the territory of France and maybe the rest of the world afterwards, and make this experience something that goes around, that people can experience as performers, as audience, and that the word will spread. And if even this tiny move can just change the mind of few, it would be a grace.
Was that always the idea, though, that this would go on beyond the Olympics, or has performing at the Olympics given you, I guess, a sense of momentum?
I mean, because I'm developing this kind of approach for so long, it felt kind of natural that it goes somewhere afterwards, because I did it as workshops with many people for years. And so as we got it and made it in 5 days with crazy superstars like Marie-Josée Pérec was performing in the show, Claudia Takbom, it was a crazy moment. And when we felt that the energy was on, we felt, okay, that's it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to push it.
And just finally, aside from your own event, and I'm just asking this because it's been really good fun making Parisians and French people admit that actually Paris is really nice and France is pretty cool as well. What's been your favourite Olympic moment?
Oh, I would say actually the introduction, of course, because all my friends were performing, and Thomas Joly did something beyond any expectation, and we were very shocked and amazed. And otherwise, I would say I went to the stadium. I actually watched people with their crazy bodies going so far into their force and their effort, and it was a moment that I will always remember.
Mourad Bouyad, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Finally, on today's programme, it is a bold English winemaker who brings their sparkling wine to France at any time, but how much the more so when France is in full show-off mode. Well, I'm joined now by Helen Gunn, Head of Brand at Nyetimber. Helen, first of all, what can you tell us about Nyetimber's new partnership with Team GB and what it means for you to be the official sparkling wine for Team GB?
Hi, great to be here. First, we're thrilled. I mean, I've personally been loving the Olympics and these iconic locations. And for us, the Team GB athletes have just been sensational. When it comes to Nyetimber, as a British brand, supporting the British team on the world stage is a real honor for us. We are really at the heart of Team GB because we're actually in Team GB house in the heart of Paris. So I don't know if people know this, but for the first time in history, fans can actually join in the athlete celebrations. And the buzz in that house has just been amazing every night. So we are really, really excited.
I mean, you are very much branded as a British winemaker up to and including having the flag on the label. Why is that an important statement to make? Is it reminding the world that not only the British can make wine, and it's really exciting saying all this stuff in France. It feels like I'm committing some kind of heresy. But in fact that the British have been making wine with some success for actually quite a while.
Absolutely. So this is, English sparkling wine. We have such status and we have such recognition. So to your question, the first part, just as the athletes are proud and excited to wear the Union Jack flag and the Team GB logo on their kit, so are we proud to have it on our limited edition bottle. We've dressed up our bottle in a special limited edition sleeve for the occasion because we are the official sparkling wine of Team GB for the Paris 2024 Olympics. I mean, really, what a magical combination.
But how much thought goes into where the balance is, though, between drawing on that heritage and presenting yourself as a modern brand?
Yeah, so we really strive to balance the innovation with the tradition. So the Nyetimber estate where our grapes are grown is actually centuries old. It was first mentioned back in 1086 in the Domesday Book, but actually the vines were planted more recently, 36 years ago in 1988. And so we've really always been pioneers because we were the first English sparkling wine producer to exclusively grow the 3 sparkling wine grape varieties. So that's Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, and Chardonnay. And actually all of our hand-picked grapes are grown exclusively on the estate, and we only use the latest technology in our winery. Increasingly, sustainability is so important for us. We use lighter bottles, for example, and really just every aspect of our process is thoughtfully considered and balanced in our relentless pursuit of perfection in every detail. So we have to embrace innovation and modernity as a pioneer, but also honor that heritage. So we're really in a fortunate position, and it's exciting.
I mean, standing here overlooking Paris, I do feel like I have to ask the shipping coals to Newcastle question. Do you sell Nyetimber in France to the French?
Well, I wish I was standing there with you because I love Paris very much. We do. It's a great question. Nyetimber has paved the way for the English sparkling wine industry. One really pivotal moment for Nyetimber and English sparkling wine, and it's really important for us to talk about the category as well, is when our head winemaker in 2018, Sherry Spriggs, she won the Sparkling Winemaker of the Year at the International Wine Challenge. So this is like a globally prestigious wine award. And when she won this, she was not just the first person outside of France to win this, she was the first woman to win this award. And so this moment was a huge moment for British soft power and British winemaking, English sparkling wine, and of course Nyetimber. So I think our success truly reinforces Britain's ability to produce high quality products that are recognized and respected globally. And truly, our friends in France, they recognize the quality of Nyetimber. And I can also tell you that Nyetimber is served at the British Embassy in Paris if you get an invite, meaning that the UK can showcase, high quality British products on the world stage.
Enragingly, Helen, we do not have a bottle of the limited edition Team GB Classic Cuvée Multi-Vintage here, but our incredibly resourceful producer Laura has located a bottle of Nyetimber Classic Cuvée Multi-Vintage. She is struggling to open it right now, but while we await the pop, which she's trying to do as close to the microphone as possible, can you tell us about what we'll be tasting in this?
Absolutely. So my pleasure. So I'm excited for you to have a sip. I do not have a glass here, unfortunately, but firstly, you'll get the aromas straight up. So this is our signature wine of Nyetimber. Oh, I heard a pop. It's very elegant. It's very intense. So the first thing you'll notice is the aromas. Like on the nose, it's pale gold. It's gentle with these fine bubbles, and you'll get this toastiness, this spiciness. And then when you taste it, you're going to get honey coming through, almond, even a little bit of, pastry, baked apple flavors. So it's very refined, very elegant. We love it.
It is, I can report, not bad, and I do think there's an exciting transgressive element added by drinking it in France. So let's take that thought further. What should we be eating with this? Is there perhaps a particular item of French cuisine we could be pairing with this which would annoy the locals even more?
So really, you could try it as an aperitif, or as the French say, an apéro. Un petit apéro with the Nyetimber. Or if you were feeling a little peckish, this pairs beautifully with oysters, scallops. Actually, sparkling wine in general. If you're unsure what to pair with a meal, sparkling wine is a real go-to. It pairs very well in general with food, and it's almost easier to pair than traditional wines.
Helen Gunn at Nyetimber, you've succeeded in making us all very hungry. Thank you for joining us. That is all for this edition of the Monocle Daily, live from Paris. A big thanks to our guests today, Regan Smith, Rowdy Gaines, Cecilia Gross, Laura Merriot, Murad Bouyad and Helen Gunn. Today's show was produced by Laura Kramer. Our sound engineer was David Stevens, with editing assistance from Sarah Nichol in London. I'm Andrew Muller here in Paris. The Daily is back at the same time tomorrow, live from Maison Allianz at the Soho Hotel. Thanks for listening.